Alright, good evening everybody. I wanted to do a video on this subject a bit since it came up, and this one is why I don't run modern systems and stick to running basic fantasy RPG and other OSR games. So this will have a lot to do with what I feel is legit criticisms, and keep in mind if you have fun playing these more modern systems, far be it from me to tell you have fun. But it was brought up um, in a video of mine that's 7 months old from a nobody who decided they just wanted to stir a pot. But anyway, and um, really, I'm a player in two different um, 5e campaigns. One is modular, another one is homebrew. And I have fun to a degree. I just wish it was more deadly. And here's the first thing I'm going to point out. One of those characters I play, and it's the longest one I have, is a wizard, a spellcaster. And in my opinion, spellcasters actually um, are probably the most immersion breaking of the characters in modern systems. Um, so I'm going to pause and take a look at some rules real quick. Anyway, so why did I say they're the most immersion breaking? Well, because in my opinion, when you have a character level up and they just happen to know two spells, it's probably the most immersion breaking thing. I had assumed because I was a newbie that my wizard didn't learn spells unless he actually went out of his way to research them. Because I really just briefly looked at the player's handbook on D&D Beyond, and they said the DM and the other players pointed out, they're the only spells you have, and I'm like, yeah. They're like, you realize you get two on level ups, right? And I'm like, okay. And I had to retroactively add a bunch of spells I had no clue about. And to be honest with you, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Um, like I wish I would have had to have earned those spells, but so, and here's basic fantasy RPGs take, and really, it's the same with most OSRs, especially in this vein that try to emulate the MOBA stuff. At some point, a magic user or a cleric may wish to start creating magic items or inventing spells. This is termed magical research. Um, I'm going to only read what is relevant to the situation. So, a magic user must have a tower or laboratory, while the cleric requires a consecrated temple or church of their faith. And you could make that account for druids too if you run druids in your campaigns. Um, and they have to roll for, well, no, the GM has to roll for success, and it should be a secret. Um, but continuing on to spell research, because that's the most important thing, more relevant thing. So, the most common type is magical research. Magic user may research a standard spell, removing the need for a teacher or reference. Um, a cleric or a magic user may research an entirely new spell. Of course, no character may invent or research a spell of a higher level than he or she can cast. If the and this is on page 154 of the core rules. If the character is inventing a spell outright, the GM must be on that. I don't allow that, so that's not relevant. The cost to research a spell is 1,000 gold per spell level for standard spells, or 2,000 for newly invented spells. In either case, 1 week is required per spell level to complete this research, and chance of success is 25% plus 5% of the character's level, meaning, going to level 2, that's an extra 10%. Minus 10% per level of the spell. The chance of success, plus 5% per level of character, minus 10% per level of the spell. The maximum chance of success is 95%. So there's the math on that. If successful, then they may add it to their spell book. Clerics can pray for their spells. On failures, the money is spent to no avail. You can, of course, adjust prices if you want to. There's been some campaigns where I felt like 500 gold was per level was, decent enough, and then some that was so gold happy that 1,000 was justifiable. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Chance of success and stuff like that taken into account. It helps with the role playing aspect, like what they use for researching spells, and I believe it kind of helps with the immersion thing. Like, it's much better than you wake up suddenly one day with more skill and suddenly you just know 2 more spells that happen to be in your book. Like, I find that immersion breaking. There is you could always use, this is kind of an older one, I believe, but I have the copy of the hard copy book right here too that I shall reference. Time spent doing magical research must be 8-hour world days with interruptions lasting no more than 2 days. You can grant experience points if you wish to on this kind of thing. So yeah, what can kind of help too is that certain NPCs can have spell books or something, and like a magic user can pay for the use of it, and that'll help balance things out a bit. It's really cold, by the way. So, the cleric can have a prayer book or whatever that they can consult and stuff like that. Be creative, use your imagination on that. I find it more enthralling. Warlocks in newer editions, I find, are very immersion breaking. Like, why would I was watching the Basic Experts stream and took part in it a little bit with the Q&A part and he brought up warlocks. Like, why would a warlock why would an eldritch being be interested in a level 1 nobody? Like, this seems more like a level 9 or 10 thing for a magic user. I find the classes in many of these newer systems to be very redundant. For example, I know people love paladins, okay? So I'm not going to knock if you have paladins in your campaigns. I've used them in mine before too. My personal opinion is that you can get as much done with a fighter that just role plays as a very devout, church going kind of soldier, and then their deity grants them powers and skills based upon their faith. Obviously, not going to be anywhere near the level of a cleric, but it helps with the immersion part, right? So I don't have a problem with paladins per se, but that's just an example, right? And it's the same with warlocks. Warlocks make no sense to me. Why go through all that rigmarole just to, when you could just have a magic user reach a level and, like, let's say they go through a dungeon and they encounter something that grants them contact with this eldritch being. That seems more organic than just making a character who just has that outright at level 1. It makes no sense to me. Here's one I want to bring up too is poison. I said on that stream that poison that we need to bring back save or die poison because poison is very inconsequential. Now, obviously, you can homebrew that into a modern campaign, but I mean, when you're already spending like towards $100 to 3 different books just to play the game, and you're still having to fix it because the system is just not not that great and imbalanced, then I mean, it's probably a sign that the system sucks. So the whole thing is poison is inconsequential in say 5e. I've been poisoned several times in 5e, and the only thing that happens is my strength stat suffers, which is a stat that I never use anyway. Because why would I, as a magic user wizard, throw myself into a melee encounter? And B, you lose so many hit points, but like you have so much at that point in time that it like the DM has to try to kill the players after level 1. Honestly, in my opinion, level 1 they're already too powerful. But um, I'm going to consult the optional rule in the back of Basic Fantasy RPG's book. It's on page 152. Described poisons as described in the encounters and monster sections kills characters instantly, and I believe it should be. Game masters may find this makes the mortality rate of player characters a bit too high. Um, Obviously, Mr. Gonerman was trying to, tailor something as an alternative, and I think this is a good rule to have if you're going to be playing with kids. So I'm not knocking this rule at all. If you're going to be playing with kids, it's a pretty nice little alternative. On the other hand, poisons should be scary. Yes, that's the whole point. Here's an optional rule which makes things a bit easier without entirely removing the fear of poison. When save or die poison is indicated, the victim must make a save versus poison, or suffer 1d6 damage per round for 6 rounds, starting with the round following the exposure to the poison. This is an average of 21 points of damage, so obviously this is still very lethal at level 1. But even a first level character might survive with a combination of luck and healing magic. Yep. Um, the GM may create poisons which vary from these figures, of course, and I've done that in the past. Like a giant tarantula doesn't have the same kind of poison as, say, a cobra or a giant black widow or something. Um, and then it brings up the negative hit points optional rule, which if you decide you want to run that, yeah, that would actually kind of help with the mortality rate, so to speak. Um, you can get really creative, but yeah, poison should be scary, and it's not scary in these newer editions because it's very inconsequential. It affects a stat and does a particular amount of damage for so many rounds, but at that point, what does it even matter? Because it's just so underpowered that like your level your level 6 party should be afraid of poison. They shouldn't want to get poisoned, but like they never are. Like I said, like my level 8 wizard got poisoned, and it's just like, oh, okay. Um, another thing, another thing too is the philosophy behind the games. For example, I talked about uh fudging dice, and why I don't do it. And my characters, see, in the Mortal Coil campaign, I had 3 players walk into the old island fortress. They got attacked by wolves and killed. They were DPK'd right off the bat. Um, Boy, howdy, there was so much drama involved with that because the cleric held on the longest. The fighter was the first to go down. The thief got ripped apart, and um, they fought like hell to get out of there, and it was try to run away because the only victory is you survive to fight another day, right? So the entire idea behind um, fudging the dice rolls, like it seems very unrealistic for those characters to have fought and killed each and every wolf anyway. They took two of them with them, uh, and that was it. Um, Personal opinion, I think magic items are in newer systems. I think they're okay. I don't think I probably wouldn't change a thing about them because I think the rule is pretty simple and straightforward in newer editions. Like I have a spider staff on my wizard that he got from a drow, so um, I would say that's pretty good. That they do that pretty good. I think it's a little magic item heavy, but something I want to bring up too. Um, Personal opinion: do not believe in balance encounters. Um, you could always homebrew that in 5e. That's no big deal. So, um, I find the save tables to be more um, uh, better, more balanced. Because with each level, the save throws improve. Um, Plus modifiers, whatever your modifiers are on your stats or on your race. Um, the How quick it is to make a character as well, like using the rules up in front here. And of course, I allow additional classes in my campaigns. You don't have to play these four, but personal opinion: dwarf, elf, halfling, and human. And then you have like cleric, fighter, thief, and magic user. So what else could you possibly need when you can tweak each class to be whatever you kind of want it to be? I still go with the whole elves are the only ones that can multi-class, and multi-class has to be an experience pool of both classes put together, because otherwise it gets unbalanced. Excuse me. I don't like subclasses very much. Um, I understand having a specialty class, I really do, but like I think it should only apply to certain classes, not every class. Like I suppose having different schools of wizards makes sense to a degree, but in my opinion, why would a wizard only want to study one basic school of magic and gain the benefit from that when you could just forego the benefits and have like this arsenal of different spells? Like, for example, let's go to the tables down here in the spell section. Um, so level 1 magic user can get charm person. They start off with read magic, and they get one other spell. Now I do kind of house rule this a little bit to where if you have a modifier like a +1 modifier, you'll get two additional spells. But core rules as written, read magic and one other spell. So you get charm person, detect magic, floating disc, hold portal, light magic missile, magic mouth, protection from evil, read languages, shield, sleep, ventriloquism, all at level 1. So those are your choices, and it goes up from there. Um, Personal opinion, um, I think that we made magic users too powerful in a lot of ways with the addition of cantrips. So um, we should have really stressed. And if you're getting into the OSR, you're going to be running a game. You got a magic user player. I would really make sure that I stress the use of throwing daggers. The use of daggers for a magic user is extremely great. Um, it's a nice alternative because they could just hang back. Like they'll be like, "Oh, why do I want a piddly little knife?" Well, it's not to stab; it's to throw, so that you can stay at a distance and you can recover that knife too. You can recover that dagger. So, like, I think that's something that we need to really stress. Um, like Another thing too is that the monsters combat goes on way too long in 5e, in my opinion. It's such a slog. Um, Whereas in this, for example, let's say I've got a best case scenario, I've got a party of a full party with different classes. Let's go down to the monster section. We'll take one random monster here. Let's say they're going to be fighting um, a giant eagle. Right. So how many is going to be appearing? It'll be 2d6. So they're going to be fighting 4 of these things. So what's the hit die on each one? Well, let's just do one. Okay. So let's just say they're fighting a giant eagle. Level 1 party fighting a giant eagle. He gets 4 hit dice. So that was 7 plus 9 equals 16. So there you go. Pretty nice little beastie. Now you're probably thinking, oh, that doesn't sound so bad. Well, that's a different story when your fighter has 4 HP, your magic user has 3, your thief has 3, and your cleric has 5. So yeah, it changes the story then, doesn't it? Combat can be over within 1 round, and that's assuming everybody hits. Combat normally doesn't last that long, whereas in 5e, man alive, it's just like you stab at an orc and it will take it 15 rounds before it dies. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it's ridiculous how long it takes. Because let's just take, okay, let's go something with more balance to it. Let's just take let's go to the orc section real quick. Okay, there's the orc right there. So they're going to be fighting, how many orcs are they fighting? That's 2d4. So let's take, how many orcs are they fighting? They're going to be fighting 3 of these things. And so orc 1 is going to have 3, orc 2 is going to have 3, and orc 3 is going to have 4. So decent little combat round. Players go ahead and roll. The orange one's going to be players for this example. The red's going to be enemies. Okay, the players go first. Let's see if anybody was surprised by this. Absolutely not. Nobody was surprised. So the players go first. Let's say the fighter is going to attack the first orc, and he's got a long sword. No, actually, let's just say he's got a short sword. He's going to miss. So let's say the magic user has magic missile. He's going to cast it, and it does 2 damage. It doesn't quite kill the orc, but whatever. The cleric is going to attack with a warhammer, and he's going to miss. Thief is going to attack with a short bow, and he's going to hit, and he's going to kill the first orc. So now it's the orc's turn. They're going to attack the magic user first, and they are going to miss barely. Thank goodness, right? So second orc decides he's going to attack the magic user as well, because he's very close, and he's going to kill the magic user right off the bat. So now it's the player's turn. They're down a magic user. So the fighter attacks with a short sword, and he's going to kill the second orc. And then the thief is going to attack with his short bow, and he's going to miss. But the warhammer cleric, all right, he's going to miss. Okay, so the last remaining orc. Let's do a morale check, and he's going to stay and fight. He's going to go after the thief. He's going to reach the thief. He is going to miss the thief. So now it's the player's turn already, and yeah, finished him off. It's 3 rounds of combat. So how long was that? Like a couple minutes. That's very fast. Now, obviously, different when you have different people, right? So, like, I'm not running this whole entire encounter by myself. That was a very streamlined thing, but that one simple encounter, and it was a deadly encounter because the magic user died. So, because they died at D4 damage. That's the joke. But, yeah, there you go. Like, we didn't need the bells and whistles. I would say that if you are looking for a game where people get ridiculous abilities as they get up there, this game is easy to homebrew for that, but personally, I think it kills the spirit of it. And honestly, if you're looking for something like that, to be honest with you, these games are not for you, really. Um, I hate to be that way, but games are not for you because, like, the whole point is the people that come to these games that want to play these games, they're coming to it because they want something. They want something that's more lethal, but they also want something. Because here's my selling point to people, right? So you can be a king, you can be even reach godhood, but the stakes are high. You're going to go through, because I picked this up from the stream. I'm going to quote Ryan from that stream. He said, "You are going to go through hell to get there. You are going to learn what it means to be an adventurer." There's a reason why the farmer's not. If it was going to be easy, the farmer would have went down into the dungeon. If it was going to be easy, then everybody in the town would pick up their pitchforks, go in there, raid that dungeon, and you'd be out of a job. They don't do that because it's not easy. It's very dangerous. The goblins are very dangerous. So, like, you got a goblin. He's going to. He has how many HP here? Okay, 6 minus 1, 5. So, that little goblin, though, is still very dangerous. Okay, and he's going to have a short sword. He's attacking the fighter, and he just killed that fighter. That one goblin, by the way, a throwaway cannon fodder enemy. But there you go. That's why I played these games, not modern. Like, if you have fun with modern, stick with modern. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't care. It's just not for me. Like, I'm still playing those games because I'm friends with guys there, but it's the thing to do. But I don't really like the systems. So if that hurts somebody's feelings, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. But anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble on for close to a half hour. Take care as always. God bless, guys. See you on the other side.